speak with me. My name is Landon, and I'm with Awards Watch, and I'm here today with Kurt and Guy, talking about the production with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Thank you so much for being with me, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Landon.
Thank you.
This is great.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thanksgiving weekend. I think, everyone's going to see the film in December. What does it feel like to accomplish, such a feat of slow motion and tackling the story of Pinocchio?
That's it, right?
It is.
It's an excitement that's lasted
And it's
years.
extended emotions that's accomplished over 4 years in my case, but probably longer than that in years because you were working on the earlier version.
Yeah, I started when Guillermo brought me on to do some redesigns in 2012 before this current version, and then that at the time was exciting, to be, but things change, and then starting again in 2018 with Kurt, as both of us doing production design and revisiting everything. It's just the momentum never seemed to leave as far as the excitement and the inspiration that Guillermo was just bringing to all of us, as this went forward. And then all those years it takes to do that excitement carries on.
Yeah, and that's sort of the challenge as well, is sort of maintaining it through production because, there's the initial excitement, but I think we never really lost that excitement over the whole time of production. And they were shooting on stage for 1,000 days, so nearly 2.5, 3 years, or over 3 years, I guess, not quite 3 years. A long time to sort of maintain the both the quality level and the excitement and be consistent, because you don't want something to be like, oh, that's from the beginning of the process as opposed to the end. So unique challenges, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine, and the film represents such a strong new look for Pinocchio, the story, which has a lot to do with, Guillermo del Toro's vision, the puppets and the designs. Can I ask you both individually, what do you think the most unique element of the film is?
That's a great question. And now I got to think for a second.
Okay.
The element. Do you have one?
I mean, I'll jump in, but I think the unique element is that it is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It is so distinctly his story that, we are all in service to that vision. And I think if I can talk for Guy, his ability to get Guillermo's vision on paper, and the unique take on the characters, I think that is directly responsible to you. There were things that were from the initial sketches, but there were characters that were added, certainly Death and the wood sprite, and that is, your fingerprints are firmly into that.
With Guillermo, I've collaborated with Guillermo on other productions, Crimson Peak, Shape of Water and stuff. We have a great collaborative, sort of sync and stuff. But I think that's mainly it. This is not like any other Pinocchio, any other really production, because it is a Guillermo's vision. We look at things like the characters that we have, even Pinocchio or Death, and our version of the wood sprite or the blue fairy. That's the wood sprite. It doesn't look like any blue fairy that people have seen, or Death. It's Guillermo's world, and we're all inspired by like his ideas, to think outside that box of what you normally would think or do for a character design or a set piece, or even with just the settings we have and the different styles.
But it comes visually distinct, I think, because of the way that he looks at the world. And you see those two characters specifically, and you're like, that can be in no other film than this. So I think that's the exciting bit. It's definitely identifiable and unique. And, as the tagline was going, it's a story you think but this is a different version of that story. And it can't be more different on a lot of levels. And I think that, it's something I'm really proud of and happy with the result.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think most people are. In screenings, people have loved it. Critics are raving. Now, Guy, I know you've worked with Guillermo before on Shape of Water and other projects. What was different this time?
in our collaborative ways, it's exactly the same. You know, we talk, we go back and forth on sketches, I get instructions and stuff. I always say that with this though, it's like you're creating everything from scratch. It's not just, you know, saying, well, here's an actor and here's a set. What can we have real world that we're dressing up in live action? We still had that same attention to detail and that same process that we would for live action. But now it's like we needed to design our cast of characters, you know, from scratch. And if we have a tree, the tree has to be stylized in a way that matches the cast of characters and the environment. So it's
world building
everything.
on a level that
Yeah.
is complete, you know, in a way that nothing is a given, really.
No, every single bit had to be not just built, but designed to fit in with the other bits, a glass on a table, a leaf. It couldn't just be like a ready-made prop that you could redress. It was always like something unique. But to me, that was great because it's another level that just brought it into its own reality of something that was it's entirely Pinocchio's world.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the main character, Pinocchio, I know he was a lot of inspiration for the character came from a book design, Gris Grimley's book design. Now, why did you guys feel like, or Guillermo feel like that would be a good fit for this version?
You know, I can't speak for Guillermo. I mean, he's you know talked about that it is basically, I think, the fact that it was he was what's the term he used for Gris's version was like not about obedience, like you know Pinocchio is
It's about the
disobedience.
tone. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
it's more about like
it flips the story on its side.
yeah. So
And I think it's that he gravitated to. And again, not to
Mhm.
speak for him, but you know, also it was a sort of unique visual in a way that is appealing and sets it apart from the other product. But I think when you guys went into redesign, it is now much more of a Guillermo look on
Yeah.
that.
yeah, because we toned down a lot of what was a little too stylized, cartoony, you know, and made it more grounded, just to keep it away from feeling whimsical,
Right.
less abstract, more of a caricature. And the details. Guillermo is amazing because you know he's hands on every part of the process, not just the concept, but as it goes through fabrication and production, and adding the details, like the one side of the head being more finished than the other side. You know, it made him his own character. So
Can you guys talk a little bit more about Pinocchio's construction and the evolution of Pinocchio?
Yeah, I think that's probably falling under my more of my duties, and that is taking the artwork and developing it into 3 dimensions. And so we worked with a team both in Portland and in the UK, McKinnon Saunders, and they've built puppets for a number of pretty high-profile films going back as far as Mars Attacks. And so, you know, first they'll sculpt a maquette, a 3-dimensional representation that's a static figure that tries to capture the character. And once that is approved, then those same shapes, ideally, are resculpted in more neutral positions that can be used to actually generate and manufacture the puppet. Because you'll generate molds for any pieces that have to be repeatable. You'll then pass those molds off to somebody who will build the armature, which is akin to the skeleton. It's the bits that have the joints in the proper places so that the knees bend in the right place and their elbow is going to move in the correct place. Part of what we had to deal with on this was that as a character design, the joints are actually integral to what it looks like. And so then we ended up working with digital modelers. There were quite a lot of pieces that were 3D printed on this one out of metal for durability, which was a bit innovative. And so the look of those was taken again from the initial sketches that you did, and from this maquette that we had sculpted just out of clay.
and also the replacement heads, which made Pinocchio stand out against the other characters, which were more mechanical, but
Right.
his expressions were all replacement heads. So it did give the sense that it was a harder wooden substance, you know.
Right. I think definitely keeping it as a wooden object was super important and something we definitely fought through the production.
Well, I mean, guys, it's just you've just pulled it off so elegantly, and that's just a testament to your artistry. I mean, stop motion to me, I don't know a lot about it, but it seems like it's the art of problem solving. And I was just wondering if you guys had any unique challenges for this particular project that you'd like to kind of talk about.
I mean, I think with production design, there's always the problem solving, but we have amazing powerhouse team of all departments. With Rob Dessou, our art director, and like Georgina Haynes, for public fabrication. If something arose, we could easily work through it. I think one example is we had Volpe designed very stylized, and he was a lot more coming to a point, like his nose, and his head was like a lot smaller.
A lot
But
smaller.
there's no way to make that a mechanic that he could actually act. So
Right.
knowing
Instead
that,
of instead of a replacement face on him, he had a mechanical face, and so there were paddles underneath the skin that would move the silicone around, and there is a physical limitation as to how small you can make those joints and have them hold up to the rigors of animation. And so
totally.
we were, trying to squeak the size of the head up while not losing what guy, and we would send it back and forth and say, can we go as big as this and still have it be the character that you designed? That was definitely
And that's
a problem solving thing that was
Yeah.
a challenge. But, that happens on many things routinely, because you have the artwork and that is sort of the idealized version of what you're aiming for.
Mhm.
And, my team, I think in Portland, we were really just, that is our Bible. That is our grail that we're searching for, and we wanted to honor the lines that were put on the paper. And so,
It's that problem solving for all of us, though. It was never sort of like, oh, this, fabrication has a problem. What do we do? It's like, oh, we go to talk about it. We discuss as a team. We're like, what do you need to change on this head to make it work? Let's go back and see what we can do design wise.
we would pass things back and forth to you as well when we were like, this is really an issue.
So even though I say like production design is problem solving, we all, as a team from every department, were solving problems and really smoothly, I think. I don't think anything was a major problem like that needed to be.
There were no problems.
Yeah, but the attention to detail is just immaculate. You can really see that in the hands and the eyes. And I know that was probably very difficult to pull off. But what was the most enjoyable or maybe interesting part of working on this project for you both? Guy, we'll start with you.
Most enjoyable part.
Or
I
interesting.
would say interesting, just seeing everything come to life. You start with a blank sheet of paper and some ideas, and then you work with Guillermo, and then as it goes to maquette, you see it starting to come. And I think that the point that it really brought it home to me was seeing the first trailer. Everything had a voice, everything was alive, there was the music and all these images that really just lived in your mind, and seeing as a prop.
And seeing as parts for so long.
And
It's like there's the
parts,
character, there's the stuff that's being built, but it wasn't coming together yet really until,
And that's when it became alive to me, and that's that sort of in a way closure. When you see it on screen, you're like, okay, now it's become alive. It's the Wooden Boy's alive, it's on screen and acting.
Absolutely.
I think for me, we sort of have four different distinct worlds in that we have Geppetto's world, and that's actually in two time periods. And then we have the world of the carnival, which has a slightly different shape and color language, although it still wants to mesh with the rest of the world. It sort of morphs a little bit when you get into the fascist thing. It takes advantage of changes in architecture that were happening in the 1930s, and we sort of drain out some of the color, that it's a little bit more severe. Color is very important to Guillermo, certainly, and he gave us very inspirational instruction at the beginning of how he wanted color used. And I think that resulted in us keeping really strong reds in the fascist world, as sort of a sense of danger, as well as draining out the rest of the color. And then we have the stuff that's uniquely Guillermo's invention, and that is the world of the underworld. And the variations on that, and it definitely feels like his type of a film, and Guy's work on that is so distinctive. And I think making sure that all of those things were separate but also hung together, that was the challenge for me, and the most rewarding bit, because I think it really does. You don't think of them as separate worlds. They seem just exactly what you need. We're making choices that ideally kind of go unnoticed, in supporting that story and that world. And
feels cohesive.
Yeah.
You don't see a new scene that you're like, well, now am I watching a different movie? You know, it
Mhm.
feels like,
Right.
you know, the underworld matches as much as the town or the carnival because they feel part of the same universe.
Yeah.
And that's just again a testament to you guys' artistry, being able to mesh those worlds together so seamlessly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, absolutely. Now, as far as your friends and family, have they seen the film yet, and what was their reaction?
Yeah, a few coworkers and friends have seen it, and I love hearing their reaction that when they're like, yes, I loved it and it made me cry. And to me, that's that emotional connection because it made me cry too. So when you can lose, I think we were talking about that earlier, when you work on something for so long, but then you see it on screen. I was not lost in looking at details. Oh, I remember when this was done, or I remember how this was solved. I was lost in the film. And I just was like watching it like the rest of the audience, and it was amazing to see.
I'm jealous. I'm one of the people that it's like, oh, right, we had a problem with that. I hope nobody notices. Not that many people have seen it yet because it isn't in very wide release, and I think once it's out in the world on Netflix, that will sort of get a little bit more commentary. I think I'm still in the sort of bubble of friends who've either worked on the film or are just going to say nice things to me. So, I haven't gotten a lot of sort of actual, not criticism, but an honest opinion that I'd be like, I see what you're coming from.
We just gotta watch it a couple more times, I think. So that's
and get past the crying and the pain of individual objects that you're like, oh, I remember that was a struggle. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And now you've tackled slow motion, stop motion, excuse me. Now, what is next for you all? What is another challenge that you would like to tackle in your careers, or another project that you would like to pursue after Pinocchio?
I pass that to you first.
Oh, great. Oh, gosh. I mean, for me, it's going to be a difficult thing because I think, I was interested in finding stories that sort of match the effort that you have to expend. You spend so much time on these things, then if the story is not there and you've wasted 4 years of your life when you get to the end and you're like, ugh, that's it. That's always a disappointment. And so for me, the thing will be to find another project that has just the amazing heart that this had. It was such a passion project, and everybody wanted to work on it in such a wonderful way. It was such a amazing family of people that came together that that's going to be the challenge, is finding another situation that is as kind of wonderfully collaborative and warm as this was. It was really sort of a high point. So yeah.
And even through the pandemic, I mean, they continued on through the darkest start of the pandemic when everything was as safe as possible.
Yeah.
And people still were inspired, with just the love and the focus of the film, and that they had for it to keep going. So
And that's incredible. It takes a village,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Hundreds of people.
Yes, and you've created a wonderful world, and worlds within worlds here, and I can't wait for the world to see it on Netflix in December, or in the theater this month.
Ideally in the theater, because seeing it big is pretty amazing. It's a dense number of pixels there, so see them all.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to the premiere, and it was just breathtaking. I mean, watching
Thank
it,
you.
it's transcendent. You are sucked into that world, and it's just like you're in it, and that's all you can concentrate on. You don't think about your phone, you don't think about your outside world. All you think about is Pinocchio and Guillermo del Toro's vision for Pinocchio, and it's so remarkable with everything you guys.
You start to think of the puppets as actors. I mean, you really almost lose yourself in that world to that extent, where they're
again, that's just a testament to your artistry, like the details with the hands and the eyes and the heads, like you said, to differentiate Pinocchio from the other characters. I mean, it's just truly incredible, guys, and I can't wait to see what's next for you all.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I'm sure I'll see you more again around the award season, because this is truly remarkable. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful holiday as well.
Thank you. You as well. Cheers.
Too.
Thanks, Landon. Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.